In this oil painting for beginners tutorial, I will show you how to paint clouds. For my brush, I will be using a synthetic brush. In this case, I have a size 4. And for oil paints, I will be using Prussian Blue and Midnight Black and Titanium White. If you're just starting out with oil painting and you are a beginner, you are in the right place. Here I have Prussian Blue and Midnight Black, and below I have Titanium White. I'm using the same brush as I coated the canvas just a step before, with a mixture of a medium, which was titanium white 50%, and then the solvent free gel 50%. And I've coated a very thin coat of that onto the canvas. And now I'm starting at the top and working my way left to right. And I'm trying to get my corners to be very dark and trying to get a nice gradation of dark to light. So the dark will be on the top and the light will be towards the horizon. So I'm using quite a bit of pressure when I'm doing this. And just kind of scrubbing the pigment into the canvas and forming some nice cloud shapes that might occur after. And you can see my arm is moving all around using different parts of the brush. So the very important part of painting like this is to be aware of how much paint you actually have on the canvas itself, because when we're painting the next layer, we have to be kind of very aware of the previous layer. So if there's lots of oil, or the paint is very runny in the first layer, it's going to be very tough for us to put the next layer on. So we want to minimize that as much as possible. We end up mixing the very wet paint on, and then another layer of very wet paint. So it doesn't really work as well. And now I'm going into Midnight Black, and I'm going right to the corners of my canvas, and really being, like I said, being aware of how much paint I'm putting on. I'm not reloading very often, and you can see from the previous step it was very minimal amounts of paint, and I just moved that paint around. And just suggesting some shadows in the clouds with that. And our light source is coming from the right. And suggesting some more shadow parts of the clouds that we're going to be painting in very soon here. So now I have a slightly different pressure. It's not a scrubbing pressure, it's more of just a very light movement. and moving the paint around and creating interesting brush strokes. I'd like to briefly just say a few words about the canvas I'm using. So this is a 20 by 10, 20 vertical and then 10 horizontal. And now I have my shop towel, and I'm starting to do a little bit more of the blend towards the horizon and trying to create some distance in the horizon, and then also trying to create clouds that are a little bit more forward. And as you can see, the shop towel is a very, very nice blender. If you don't have a blender brush, then the shop towel works well to blend. The shop towel is also very good for taking off extra paint, as you'll see in the next step here. I'm just kind of rotating the shop towel for a fresh surface. And now I am starting to kind of compose the highlighted part of the clouds. And simultaneously I'm also removing the excess paint that might interfere with our highlight. Because we want the nice tint on the canvas when we do our highlight. So I don't have any pictures to go by. I'm just kind of composing as I go, knowing the rules of distance. The things that are closer to us are a little bit more defined and bigger. So the clouds that are a little bit closer to us are a little bit more defined, and the clouds that are farther away, they're very, very light and not as defined. So when you do your version of this, if you choose to, just kind of play around with it, because there's a lot of things that are happening, and it takes quite a bit of practice to get to feel the amount of paint that we're putting on canvas. Especially this initial first stage of a landscape. So the less paint you have, the better. And now I'm finding some more of the highlighted parts of the clouds. I'm always rotating the shop towel, right, for a new surface, and then it helps me take off the paint or the pigment from the canvas, and it gives a nice graduation from light to dark, giving it a 3D shape. And I have some horizontal clouds in the distance there. And just taking my time with this. That's the beauty of the oil paint. We don't have to rush it to try and achieve an effect. We can take as much time as we need. Alright, so I'm back to my brush now. Because I'm using one brush, I'll be wiping it lots. And my next step is to load the brush with titanium white. If you're out and buying brushes, buy 2 of the same brushes. It's a very important thing. Your process will be going much quicker than what you're seeing right now. But if you only have one brush here, and that's what the video is about, I'm showing you the steps and where you must clean your brush and when you're reloading it. So it's not totally clean, right? So I'm just took the excess off and then I'm just reloading it right now. Just on the edges there, just on one edge of the brush, because I'll be using the other edge to contour and mix the light to dark. Okay, so the first step is to just kind of bounce around and find highlights on some of these clouds that I've shaped with a shop towel. And I'm just kind of manipulating the brush so I can fit my shapes in there. And there's no specific shapes for clouds. Clouds are every kind of shape. And I'm going to be reloading the brush now, so I'm making sure that it's wiped as much as possible. All the excess that I've picked up, I don't want to introduce it back into the white. So reloading the paint now. So just a kind of a reminder of the light with my arm. And I did not mention that this is a wet on wet. So wet on wet means that the painting has not had a chance to dry before the next layer is applied. So you can see me that I'm now switching to the other side of the brush for the blending. And you can also, if you have noticed, that I move around with my initial paint that I loaded on the brush. I don't spend a lot of time working in one area. I move around to make sure that the paint is evenly kind of distributed. I don't have an amount of paint to contend with. So it's just bits of paint, and then I just move around and find wherever the light might hit the cloud, and then just kind of softening it now. Okay, very good. Thank you for watching the video, and I will see you next time. Have a great day.